Welcome back to Talking Devils podcast, brought to you by talkingdevils.co.uk, your number one independent Manchester United podcast. Again, we are here this Saturday morning. It's our 10:30 show. Looks like with Europa League, we may be doing actually more of these going forward. So hope you are enjoying our morning shows. I am joined by former Manchester United player Phil Marsh and head of the channel and also author Wayne Barton. We are here today to talk all things Manchester United. Obviously, the big game on Super Sunday between Manchester United and Arsenal, one of the biggest rivalries in English football. We will be discussing that as well. And also, we'll be taking your questions as well this morning. So do make sure to smash like the video, so hit that subscribe button, but also as well, do follow us on our audio platforms as well. Phil, we were just talking off camera. It's been kind of a mad week as a Man United fan, and just for yourself, from a footballing perspective, looks like Man United are back in the win column, but you also had a bit of a footballing loss the other day as a manager. Let's talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, so obviously Man United at the moment doing really well, looking a lot more solid. 3 wins on the spin. So that's obviously a positive and good to sort of be talking sort of in a positive light about Man United for a change. But yeah, on the flip side of that, I suffered my first defeat as a manager, which was obviously not great, but again, it's a great experience for me to sort of take this role on that I have done managing the Pilks under 23s. I want to sort of do my UEFA A license this year, so I think a lot of the stuff that I'll need will sort of marry up nicely with what I'm doing with the young lads down at Pilks. But as I say, we've got a young group lads who are sort of raw, but want to try and improve and want to learn. So I'm just looking to sort of pass my experience and my knowledge on and give these lads sort of a good chance of maybe trying to get a sort of team where they can make a bit of a living out of the game. Obviously, there's a lot of good money in non-league football as well nowadays. So that's the aim. I'm trying to push some of these into the first team, and it's been going really well so far. So looking forward to another game today and to see how they can get on. And as I say, we're sort of building and looking to sort of make a good team moving forward.
It's great to see that you're in management, as you said, passing your knowledge on it in the game, but also as well, we do have this trend at the moment that Marshy is at the wheel as well. If anyone has seen Phil's social media recently, there is a picture circulating on Twitter that Phil is at the wheel outside Old Trafford. So that let's hope that trend keeps going. You do stay in management, Phil, and every week I'm going to be banging that drum. Marshy's at the wheel, absolutely. Wayne, we haven't talked in a bit. Last time we actually talked, it was around the time we did have the defeats around against Brighton and Brentford. Kind of, what's your perspective been on the last couple of weeks, just as a whole, and also just as a United fan?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Also, I've got to say good morning to my little nephew Noah, who's watching. We just went for breakfast, and he's excited to watch me. So I've got to say hello to him. Yeah, I'm very excited with United at the moment. I don't know, maybe not excited, relieved, emotional about it. They've obviously, with the rebirth of this recent form coming against Liverpool as it did, there's obviously that added excitement that comes along with that, and the fact that it seemed to mean something, that the crowd got behind them. They put in this really nostalgic performance. It was so reminiscent of United. So to see it spark to life in that way, and then to see, look, all right, the wins over Southampton and Leicester weren't fantastic. We weren't brilliant, but we saw flashes of brilliant football. So to see that, yeah, I mean, it's been very, very positive. I know that we'll be picking the bones out of it as we go, but obviously after Brentford, in a far greater frame of mind watching United.
Yeah, definitely, and it seems to be kind of a more positive kind of couple of weeks we've had. And I think one thing that we've seen massively in the last couple of weeks has been refreshing is togetherness. And that's something that we haven't seen even before the start of the season. The last 20 games before that, there was a lack of togetherness, lack of cohesion. And look, I think we're going back to basics now. And I think that's something that, look, Ten Hag has done and has worked out really well for him. And hopefully he can continue, especially with this massive game going forward. But Phil, we were talking last week on the podcast, and we were talking especially about needing to be more organized and needing to have that bit more, I suppose, bite in our game. Lisandro Martinez has come into the team, and Gordon Hill actually quoted that he's been almost like a bull in the team. He's just been that kind of, added spark to this Manchester United defence. And as a result of that, him and Varane have grown a very good partnership. What do you make of their relationship on the football pitch in the last 2 games?
Yeah, I think that's been a massive part of obviously the winning results that we've had in the last couple of games. I think keeping a clean sheet is a massive bonus because we've not been able to do that for so long. And I think this partnership now has got a really good balance, really good chemistry between them both. I think Stu touched on it the other night when we were speaking on the match reaction about, Varane has always had that sort of bullish player at the side of him, whether it was Ramos or Pepe. And I think that gives him that opportunity to just sort of step back and be able to, be the Rolls-Royce defender that we have seen when he was at Real Madrid. And I think the last couple of games, certainly them two have been a sort of massive plus point. And I think that is now a settled back four for me, what I think we can move forward with. Although Maguire and Shaw aren't going to be in it, I think at this moment in time, you can't change that because it's been solid and we look, as I say, like, we're going to be able to keep clean sheets, which I think is going to be a great foundation to build on. I think moving forward, obviously, I did mention it on the match reaction show the other day as well about now we've sort of sorted that and we've got the sort of defensive side of things sorted. I think if Casemiro can come in and make that position his own, and we can start to build and make a little bit more progress in the attacking third, whether that's with Ronaldo or without him in the team, I think, we won't be far off. And I think, if we can start scoring a few more goals, then, we're going to be a real team to sort of be, wary of because we've got ability and if we're keeping clean sheets, that's the sort of, combination for a very successful team.
And like Wayne, Phil obviously mentioned there about like kind of getting that defensive structure right. Obviously Gordon was touching on it the other day in terms of like Casemiro coming into the team, giving us that wealth of experience, that maybe some of our midfielders don't have, the likes of McTominay and Fred, etc. Do you, like, when you look at Ten Hag getting that spine right, do you think Casemiro can be a very important part of that, considering, like, I know we had Matic, but if you look at like since about 2000, since Carrick retired, really, we haven't had that 6 that could dictate from midfield.
Yeah, no, for sure. The experience in the spine is obviously massive for United. And don't get me wrong, with McTominay and Fred, people seem to think that they don't, that they're inexperienced, but they've been in the United first team for 5 years, right? When did Fred signed under Mourinho? So that would have been 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
So McTominay was in before then. He was getting games before then. So they've been around for a long time. It's not like they don't have the experience, but we're talking about elite experience, and that's where Casemiro comes in. It's difficult when you've seen him come in so far. I was talking about this on the podcast with Paddy Barkley yesterday. When you see Casemiro, his cameos at the moment, like against Southampton, there was a moment where McTominay was doing some cleaning up in front of him, and I think he lost the ball, and Casemiro stepped in, almost like a dad watching his kid on bike on stabilizers. He's like, all right, I'll step in and deal with this. And I think that's kind of where you're going to see Casemiro. And I'm not saying he's going to be like that on a permanent basis, but he's finding his feet in that midfield. He's finding what his responsibility is, knowing the limitations and qualities of the players who are going to be playing alongside him, and then imposing himself once he's familiar with all that. So it's been a gradual integration so far from Ten Hag, very responsible in the way that he's done that. And obviously, you've got the benefit of the fact that McTominay played well in all of the games. They're 3 of his best performances for United. So he's being very gentle with the way that he's doing that introduction of Casemiro, and very fair to McTominay as well. Obviously, you're going to suspect that Casemiro will ultimately take McTominay's place, but he's doing it in a way that isn't going to be detrimental, hopefully, to McTominay's confidence. And for Casemiro, it's a nice, gentle kind of introduction because you've not put too much pressure on him. You've not said you've got to solve all these problems immediately. You're letting him actually find where he's supposed to be a presence. Obviously, he's got the experience of playing alongside Varane, so you've got that relationship there. You've already touched on Martinez, and I think that the thing that really impresses me is that the performances from Martinez and Malacia feel like they're 9 out of 10s. But if you go back and watch them, probably 7 out of 10s. But because of the standard has been so erratic before, that kind of composure and confidence and consistency we've taken for granted. So seeing them just come in and play competently and play like an organised back four it feels like a massive, massive upgrade from what we've had. So if you put Casemiro in front of them, and obviously he's used to playing as a kind of defensive screen anyway, not the classic sort of Kante, he's not a water carrier, but like Deschamps, but he's, you know what I mean, he does play in that capacity and he's learning these combinations as we go. You know, he's learning to play with Eriksen, learning to play with Fernandes. And I'm impressed with the way that Ten Hag's handled it. Obviously, it's been there in the results. It's not been spectacular, but you're not going to... People forget, and the classic example is York and Cole, in terms of like, you know, they came into the side and it seemed like they hit it off straight away. It took them like 6 or 7 weeks to actually get that combination and then start playing like that. And they've been on the training ground for that time as well. So building these kind of relationships and combinations will take time, and I think Ten Hag's doing it the right way.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've liked about Ten Hag is the way he's integrated the new signings. Not even just so much Casemiro, because he's doing that fine, but the way he's integrated Malacia and Martinez in there as well. He's found that proper combination there. We're seeing cohesion. And like, I think it'd be interesting to see now what he does with Antony. Because I think when you look at that type of player, we're talking about looking for the fine balance in attack. I think Antony's probably that missing piece in terms of creativity, in terms of pressing, in terms of making the United fans get their bums off seats. And I think Antony is going to be that player. I think the prospect of an Antony right wing, Martial striker, and Jadon Sancho left wing, I think that prospect for many Man United fans is something that I think will be mouthwatering. And we look at that balance in terms of Martial bringing players into play, him and Fernandes linking up. I think there's many different facets to Manchester United's attack that can be very, very wonderful to see when Antony comes in, like different combinations. I think you're right as well, Wayne, in terms of when you see Casemiro developing that relationship, with Eriksen and Fernandes, but also with like McTominay as well, because like I think there's going to be games where we're going to have to sit the two of them in there and roughen teams up and have that bite against teams, and if them two can develop that relationship, it can definitely benefit us. But also with McTominay as well, because like we all know McTominay isn't a 6. We all know that he's more of a box-to-box midfielder. He's better actually when he's getting in the opposition box and adding to the attack. Like we've seen under Solskjaer when he did do that, that was his best period of football. So I think the Casemiro signing can benefit Eriksen and Fernandes to express themselves more. I think that from a Scott McTominay point of view, he can play probably slightly more advanced, but also, like, I know he's been in the game a while, but he hasn't probably had an elite partner in there. I know that people can say Paul Pogba, but like Paul Pogba was off it more. He was on it for Man United. So I think when you have a player like Casemiro who's been there, done it, won every single trophy out there, bar the World Cup, obviously. Like, I think you look at him and I think he's going to be a very important cog in this Ten Hag kind of rebuild.
Yeah, no, yeah, completely agree, and I think I'm almost 100% certain that Phil will agree with this. The biggest benefit that I've seen so far, apart from these players playing well, is that the players who are stepping up, like McTominay, like Delors, like Rashford, like Fernandes even, these were players who were getting a ton of criticism a few weeks ago. So to see them sort of liberated a little bit, to sort of take the pressure off them and to see them play, because it's all right saying, buy new players and get them into the team and watch them play well, but you've got to see a raising standards from the players who are already there. A lot of us are willing to give them that chance because we knew that there were players in there. So to see them step up has been a really good thing. To see McTominay's increase consistency is fantastic to see. Why wouldn't you want to see it? Even if he's a squad player in the future, if he's playing like he is doing, then he's a good squad player to have. Do you know what I mean? Rather than having this pressure on him to be something that he's not, which, we had that through all the criticism that was placed on him. So all these counter products of the new players coming in, because they are raising the standards, they are increasing the pressure, and as long as the players like Delors and McTominay step up to that pressure and handle it, then it's another counter product, a really good consequence of everything that Ten Hag's doing.
And like I think Phil, like with this, Wayne's mentioned like these new players coming in raising the standards. I think competition. I think these players need to start thriving off this now because I think for too long I think they probably had it a bit easy. But it looks like now with this kind of authoritarian figure and Ten Hag coming in, Ten Hag's not taking any nonsense from anybody, and he's bringing in his own players and he's setting his own standards. I think when you look at this period now, I think Ten Hag will look at the Lows, the McTominays, the Rashfords, and I think he's going to challenge them though to raise the standards.
Most definitely. I think, just thinking back to the Brentford game and sort of, how much of a low point that was, and, coming out of that game, the club was probably at rock bottom. So, if you'd have said to any United fans that we was going to go and win the next 3 games, none of us would have believed that after, the performance that we seen that night. But as you say, you've got to give credit to the players because the way they've reacted and the way that they've, bounced back and picked up maximum points from them 3 games against Liverpool, it was fantastic. Everybody seemed as though they was at it. It was the best performance I'd seen in a long, long time in terms of just the desire to want to win a game. Now, I think that comes from a lot of these new signings that are coming in, increasing that competition on the training ground and, players now thinking, right, this manager, he's not, shy of, making a change when it needs to be done. So a lot of these players who've been in that comfort zone for quite a while, quite a number of seasons, thinking, the performance levels weren't really, leading to any consequences. Now it's been shown that, if you're not pulling your weight and the levels aren't, being hit, that, Ten Hag's not shy of making changes and putting players in. So that's a massive part of what I think we've seen in this last, couple of games, that the players have kept the shirts and deserve to keep the shirts because they're working hard. The performance levels have been a lot better, and we're doing the sort of ugly side of the game, which we haven't done for a long while. So yeah, it's great to see now that we have got that competition within the group, and obviously we've brought Antony in now, who's another player that's going to be sort of in them wide attacking areas, which we've got a lot of players. So that's obviously going to be another, bit more competition for some of them players, which, hopefully will spur them on to try and, force their way back into the team.
When you look at obviously this Antony signing, it's a big money signing. But I think for many of us, we don't care how much the price tag is, considering our situation with the owners. We don't care how much the club spend, because at the end of the day, we need to get where we need to be. When you look at this signing, and obviously Gordon mentioned Antony as a statement signing, and looks like he was one of the players, obviously apart from Frankie de Jong, that Ten Hag wanted to bring in as an important cog in a Ten Hag kind of total football system. Do you think we can almost get I suppose, not to lump too much pressure, but is he one of the most exciting young players we've had maybe since we bought a young Cristiano back in 2003, in terms of like having that kind of, I suppose, young superstar label on him?
Yeah. No, yeah, I think it's a really, really fair comment. It's like when you see how good he is and how frightening his potential could be, then yeah, you've got to look at that. And it's a second club record signing. It's not the record, it's the second one. So, I look at him, and you look at all the clips, you see him play, you see how aggressive he is in wanting to take players on. He's you can see it every time he gets the ball. He's trying to take someone on. He's trying to do something. He's an entertainer as well. The thing is, he's very instinctive. I know some attackers, Phil will probably be the first person to comment on this. Attackers like reliability of delivery. Like, they'd love a player like David Beckham because they know where that cross is going every single time. Antony's big trick is getting the ball into the back post. He's pretty good at doing that, switching in on his left from the right and getting a ball back into the back post. That's pretty much his staple. So that's as consistent as it's going to be. But he also likes doing everything else as well. So he's got that element of unpredictability, which is great to watch, but sometimes frustrating to play with. The thing is, he does have that star quality. He does have something that's going to be getting everyone off the seats at Old Trafford for sure. It's a massive step up for him. The thing what I will say, which I'm really curious about, when you talked about a player to fit a system, he definitely is, because Ten Hag was integral to Ten Hag's system, and he was integral to the success of it and the way that he played. that's very, very, very different to the way that Van Gaal did things. People will remember Van Gaal's system was very stoic, and it's still effectively total football. He was telling players that he wanted them to do certain things, but in Van Gaal's system, you had players basically told to take as many touches as they want, preferably to move it quick, but they always had to take a touch. Do you know what I mean? They had to take a touch, control the ball, assess the situation, effectively low risk football. They weren't allowed to move too far out of the zones. Raphael famously tells a story that he had like an avenue of playing in right back, which he was allowed to play in, but he couldn't stray out of that. Wasn't allowed to try first time crosses, even though that's what he excelled at. So what I'm saying is Van Gaal wasn't a fan of instinct. Antony is all instinct, isn't he? Everything he's doing is playing off instinct. So that Ten Hag, and you can already tell from his system, he's encouraging the players to move it first time. He's encouraging them to be fluid with it, encourage them to try the instinct in the first time football. And by the way, for anyone watching this who's a Van Gaal buff, they'll remember that they did play that way. They did play one-touch football, but that was once he had mastery of the system. Once he had complete control of the players, then they could kind of get that rhythm and play like that. Ten Hag champions that from the start, and Antony's a massive, massive component of that kind of system. So to see him come in, he's going to be encouraged to be instinctive, and that is a thing that United's support gravitates towards. Do you know what I mean? They respond to that. Keane, being sat in the stands, a player runs at someone, you're immediately off your seat because you want to see them take that player on. It's just something that's ingrained with Old Trafford. So I think it's a very good signing. I think it's actually, if Ten Hag looked at the first few games and thought there's something missing here, and he identified that as something that was missing, I think it's very astute very early on from Ten Hag to say, all right, we need to actually push the ball out to get him because he's going to transform the way that we attack. It is a big step up. You don't know how it's gonna go. We've made a lot of mistakes with big money transfers in the past. I say mistakes. You can see that we've paid too much for him. But I think at the moment, for example, Martinez, if he continues to play the way that he is, nobody's going to be talking about the fact he cost 55 million euros. So if Antony comes
or the fact he's 5'9" either.
Exactly. That's very much becoming a thing that people are forgetting about because of how good he's playing. Don't get me wrong, it will get remembered every time he has a bad game or makes a mistake. But that's part of the responsibility of playing for United, is that they have these headlines and these narratives that are pushed on them that in a way that players at other clubs don't have. So, yeah, obviously, if he plays poorly, Antony's going to face the criticism for the fee. But that's part of the profile that he's now in. And I'm sure that if he plays as we know that he can, then people will forget about that. They'll talk about it as a bargain.
Yeah, and I think as well, what Antony has is like, he has that swagger and the arrogance to be a Man United player. I know I mentioned it. I probably overuse it, but when you're a Man United player and you're a big money signing, you need to have that arrogance. You need to have that kind of bite about you, to be a United player. From what I've seen of him, he seems to tick them boxes. And like to see the clips of him giving it to Darwin Núñez on a Champions League night now, next time we play Liverpool, hopefully he doesn't headbutt him like that because he probably be sent off. But like, I like the sentiment in terms of like his attitude. He gets fans off seats. He's aggressive, and that's what you look at all the players who he's brought in. They kind of fit that profile in terms of working hard and try to be entertaining as well at the same time. So look, let's hope he does settle in. I think the fact he's like, when you see some of these big money signings come into Man United, some of them didn't have familiarity. Now, Pogba did. Pogba was at the club before. Obviously, he had people like Rooney and Lingard and Carrick who were at the club when he was at the club. And so he had that familiarity. Other big signings after that didn't, that we've made post Sir Alex. So I think Antony coming into Ten Hag, coming into Lisandro Martinez, Casemiro, his international teammate, he has a bit of familiarity there. He'll be able to settle in that bit quicker. So there is a good bit of South American contingent there now as well. So he'll be able to settle in that bit quicker. He has that relationship already with the manager. So I think maybe his bedding in process is, like, in theory now, probably going to be a bit more smoother than maybe some of the other big money signings we have in the past, like your Lukaku's, Freddie when he came in. Like, I think he'll have a much smoother bedding in process than maybe some of the others.
Let me just jump in on that before you go to Phil with it, because I think it's a really good point. Ten Hag has his own standards, his own set of principles, and Antony's obviously very familiar with them. Yeah, okay, United have this pressure to win every single game, but Ten Hag has that. He's clearly instilled that on the players, impressed that. He said, no, your standards need to be much higher than what they have been. And, so they're Ten Hag's standards, really, and they're the ones that matter because he's the manager of Manchester United. So Antony's already familiar with that. Martinez is obviously familiar with that. And Casemiro comes from Real Madrid, so he doesn't, Varane, these players already know that standard. They know the responsibility and they know that pressure. So, yeah, rather than it being a particular Manchester United thing, because I think in the past, the players that you mentioned, Fred, Pogba, Maguire, Lukaku, players who've come in, perhaps United were blowing that trumpet too much. This is the Manchester United way of doing things. And don't get me wrong, it still is. But Ten Hag's message is different. It's my way of doing things. And I think that's a subtle but necessary improvement that the players need to be aware of.
Phil, what do you make of this signing? Because it's obviously, like as we mentioned before, a statement signing, but it's also like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago in terms of our policy of signing forward players. We always kind of revert to kind of the panic, stopgap, 30-year-old players who probably are injury prone or past their best. Now we're signing a good statement signing, a project signing. Like what are your feelings kind of on this signing, and do you think like he's going to be like an important part, of the success of Manchester United for years to come?
Yeah, I think it's a massive signing in terms of all the stuff we've just commented on there. He knows Ten Hag, he fits the system like a glove. I think we've needed that player to sort of give us the X factor, if you like, and try and get fans on the edge of the seat. I think he'll definitely bring that. I think he's full of tricks, but he has got a lot of end product to go with that. So I'm looking forward to obviously seeing him and hoping that he can hit the ground running straight away. I think a lot of fans will probably have reservations of getting a little bit excited too soon with what's happened with the likes of Sancho. The sort of hype around him and hoping that he was going to come in and sort of be 9, 8 out of 10 every week. Didn't materialise, but I think he's finding his feet a little bit more now, and being a little bit more consistent with these performances. So very excited to obviously see him. I think the massive one for me was sort of resolving the number 9 issue, with the sort of Martial being, sort of injury prone and obviously the uncertainty around Ronaldo at the time. But for me, I think now bringing him in, because I think Alanga's done really well, don't get me wrong, but I think Antony's going to be a shoe-in to come in now and sort of start against Arsenal, and I think that could be something that gives us that extra bit of cutting edge in the final third, which I think we have struggled with a little bit in the last couple of games. I think we've obviously won the games 1-0, but for me, when the teams have been there for the taking, we've not quite had that killer instinct and that ruthlessness in the final third where we could have maybe got the second and third goals and made it a little bit easier for ourselves in them other games. But I feel as though he could be the difference against Arsenal, because I think we are going to need to score more than 1 goal to get the 3 points.
Yeah, we are. And I think we do need that cutting edge to kill off games still. I still think, look, while it's good that we are being defensively organised and we're seeing us having that bite, I think up front we do need to be a bit more ruthless. But I think maybe Cristiano's future now being resolved, maybe we see a bit more of him now, and maybe we do use him more to the effect of killing off games. Obviously, Martial been injured. Like we can't help that. He has that injury record. That's we know that is what it is. And I just as much as I think he fits the Ten Hag system like a glove, fits it perfectly. I think the club maybe offer Martial a new contract. I think maybe a bit far-fetched at the minute. Maybe let him have this season first of all, and then let's see. Look, between the second half of the season, can these muscle injuries, not carry on? But I do think going forward, we will need a number 9 that will fit this system. I think next summer, I know Nkunku's name was thrown around at the start of the summer. No, he can play a blend between a 10 and a 9. We need to be looking at players with that kind of profile. So young, exciting strikers who do suit the system. I think, I know this season, we have a multitude of players who can play up front. Rashford's doing the job up there at the minute. Martial, we've seen against Liverpool, he was fantastic. Obviously, Ronnie can play up there. Bruno can play false 9 if needed. So, like, I think this season we can deal with that once we're organised. But I think especially at 9, like, next summer, it's going to be vital.
Just on that, Keane, just obviously, I'm intrigued really to sort of hear yourself and Wayne's thoughts on sort of, you know, the way that, you know, Ten Hag sort of deals with this conundrum moving forward. Because for me, the other day, obviously against Leicester, in the second half, for me, when he brought Ronaldo on, we looked to sort of, we looked like we was maybe going to score a second goal just because the threat he offered, you know, making them little runs in, you know, clever runs behind the defenders. And I think there was one where he tried to squirt for Eriksen. He had the overhead kick attempt. I think obviously Rashford offers a lot of things, but in terms of that real cutting edge and you know, filling me with confidence that he's going to, you know, score every single game he plays in, I don't quite have that feeling as I would if Ronaldo was in the team. Don't get me wrong, there's pros and cons for both players playing. Against Liverpool, it was a perfect example of that. You know, them three with the energy and the pace, you know, suited that game down to a T. But I think Ronaldo would be suited for other teams and for different opponents in certain games. What do you think on that between you?
Yeah,
Do I take that first?
Take it, Keane. Yep.
I think in certain games, Ronaldo can be utilised. I think against the lower end teams, where we will have most of the ball, I think Ronaldo can be used. I think against like the bigger sides, your Manchester Cities, your Liverpools, I think I don't think we'll have the majority of the ball. I think Ronaldo may be better in the second half coming off the bench if we're still in the game. I think maybe Martial or Rashford will be better suited up top in them type of games. But I think like games like you mentioned for like the Leicesters, you know, games against, you know, Crystal Palace, you know, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, them games where we need to kill teams off, I think Cristiano will thrive in them games. So we're going to have the ball. He can bring players into play. He can he can get into the box and create them chances. I just think in the games against Liverpool, Man City, where they're going to play a high line counter attack, I think Rashford, Martial, you know, Antony, Elanga, not Antony and then Anthony Elanga, that's going to mess with me all season. Like players like that who on the counter attack can be more direct. I think in them games you will see more of them. But I think Phil, in games that like we're going to have most of the ball, I think Cristiano Ronaldo can be used. And look, if Ronaldo is willing to press in them games and work hard off the ball, then look, 110%, I think Ronaldo can be utilised.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think everything you said spot on, Keane. I will add a couple of things on my thoughts on Ronaldo. First of all, Ten Hag, as he gets familiar with the league, he's going to start knowing the qualities of the opponents that we're playing against. So if there are defenders who aren't the quickest, the thing is we saw with Ronaldo, he's not slow. He's still got a little bit of a burst about him. He can still hold the pace. But we saw against Southampton, there was one counter-attack that he ran and then he pulled up, but you knew that he wasn't going to get there. And it was almost like he was doing the old, oh, my thigh's gone kind of thing. I've done that playing football with my nephews when I know I can't catch them, feigned injury. And my sisters, to be fair. But, the point is that, like, Ronaldo knows this as well, and Ten Hag will know it. The thing that Ronaldo's really good at, and the people aren't appreciating, is really good at evolving. He was obviously evolved from a winger to being a forward. He was an inside forward when he really started causing most damage when just around the time that Phil was there and Phil left. He sort of moved into channels, the right channel and then the left channel. At Real Madrid, it was predominantly from the left he came in, and then he evolved into a central striker. And as a central striker, he always talks about, he would look at and even as a winger, he said this as well. I remember him talking about it, that he would sort of spend early parts of the game, if he was unfamiliar with the opponent they was playing against, just assessing their qualities. And then, you know, it wasn't necessarily a case of that defender was going to mark him. Even if they thought that was going to happen, Ronaldo would just move around, find the defender with the weak spot, and then attack that vulnerability. And he's really good. I say he's really good. He's really good at doing that anyway. He's world class at doing that. But second of all, the other players around him are good at moving around in different directions and different areas of the attack. So if they can accommodate that, then there's no reason that in many games that he can have an impact. It's not necessarily, I know what you're saying, I completely agree, like the Forest and Bournemouth, the so-called lower place sides or teams with the slower defenders in there. But if they are economic with the way that they do it, then there's no reason that even in the bigger games that they can't find a place for him, because there's still nobody who has a striking instinct like him. Look at what he did against Spurs last season. You know, the variety of the goals that he scored, all three of them were unbelievable. So if you can get him into those kind of areas, and you know, it's evolution now. Let's bear in mind, I was having this conversation yesterday as well. There's, you know, they spent 6 to 8 weeks trying to find him a different club. In Mendes, you know, they were looking all over Europe. So what they will have found from that is nobody wanted to take him on, and you're going to have fewer takers next season. So really, if he wants to stay at the top level, it's going to be not only playing this season at United, it's going to be adding that third year on as an option, because if not, then it's a big drop for him in the MLS or something, or going back to Sporting, where the profile will immediately plummet. So it's in his own interest, really, to stay at United now and make the best out of the situation that what he's got. And to be fair, it's not a bad situation. It's not as bad as it seemed it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, because Ten Hag, through strength of management, has turned it around. And I think he's still counting on Ronaldo to sort of be the world-class striker that we still know that he can be at the age of 37, moving to 38. You know, there's still that player in there. I think in a way it suits him. Like, he'll be playing Europa League games, so you've got to build up to a World Cup where he's going to be fresh. He's going to be thinking, all right, I don't have to play that many games at the start of the season, so I'll be fresh going into the World Cup, and then can make a big statement there, and he'll be re-energized to make whatever impact he has. The fact is, we're not in the Champions League. He'll want to get us back there. If he finishes, you know, if it's this season or next season, finishes with a trophy for United and he's contributed along the way, then he's going to feel like he's made a real, you know, Phil knows this better than anyone, better than either of us, Keane. Ronaldo's a legacy. He's concerned about his legacy now. And it's not about being unrealistic and saying, oh, I can go to Napoli and score another 10 Champions League goals. He's got to deal with the realistic situation and what he's got. And I think he's a professional enough player that he'll make the best out of it. And if he's in that kind of positive frame of mind, and the manager's obviously clever enough to use him in the best way, then it can be very, very, very positive for us.
Yeah, and I think it is very positive, like in that regard. And we will see Cristiano. I think if he can use that Europa League as a springboard this season, it's the only trophy he hasn't won. As I said, Wayne, he is a legacy man, so why not? If we play him in all them Europa League games, he leads us to winning the Europa League, then that's another feather to his cap.
Yeah. 100%, I agree. And just on that as well, I think sometimes people sort of underestimate the sort of aura that he has on the pitch. I think, you know, just the name Cristiano Ronaldo sometimes, just when he's on the field, occupies defenders because, you know, they're scared of the sort of threat that he possesses. And as you say, he has evolved over the years. He's not as quick as he used to be. He doesn't make them penetrating runs sort of in behind as much as he used to, but he's more clever now with these runs that he does make, and he sort of makes unselfish runs so that it gives other opportunities for other people to take the space. And, you know, he leaves gaps for, you know, the players who are, you know, a little bit faster to sort of make them runs in behind, and he just gets himself in the box where he know he can, you know, finish off, you know, the majority of chances that he gets. So, yeah, as I say, I think he'll be a massive part this season. I just hope that he does sort of get, you know, given some more opportunities in certain games where I think we sort of will need that killer instinct and then, you know, extra goals to get us over the line.
I just a little very tiny note before Keane moves on this. So Ronaldo's made 3 substitute appearances in a row. The first against Liverpool, then against Southampton, then against Leicester. Against Liverpool and Southampton, I think he played with the air of someone who thought that he might be moving. You know, he was trying to score. He was trying to get that last deadline and then say goodbye. Against Leicester, very, very different. He was moving into channels and he actually created a couple of good chances. I know he gave the ball away and it nearly led to them scoring, but what he was doing was working for the team. And I think it was a very clear switch of attitude. I mean, I'm looking at that positively and wanting to be optimistic about what will happen. So I'm hoping that that's a change that I've noted. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that's what we're going to see from him. But like you said, Phil, we know that he's capable of it. He's capable of great things. And if he's in that frame of mind, then it's only a good thing for us.
Yeah, and if he's committed, I think that like it can only benefit us that he's like his experience. Like I know we've Casemiro, I know we've Varane, but he's Cristiano Ronaldo. Like that's who he is. Like he is the greatest of all time, and I don't care. People can say Messi all they want. Cristiano Ronaldo, compared to like from where he came from to where he went, how he built himself up. Like there's no greater story than that in football. Like, well, in terms of like a player building themselves up and being the greatest, he came from nothing to being the greatest of all time. He's done it in the Premier League. He's done it in Serie A. He's done it in La Liga. Then he came back to the Premier League at 37 and done it. And I'm not ashamed to say it, probably the worst United team ever. Like, really, I know we got relegated, but that team last season was worse than the team that got relegated. It was. Because that team that got relegated played with bite, played a passion, they played for the shirt. Last season at certain stages, our team didn't. And let's be honest about that. And Cristiano thrived in that team, scored 24 goals at 37 years of age. That ends the debate for me. It really does. But if he can really step up this season and look, accept his role for what it's maybe going to be, that maybe he's not going to be starting every single game, but when he plays, Ten Hag will be putting that 100% trust in him to be that leader on the football pitch, to be that experienced player, to guide others, give some of these younger players advice. Like if I'm Antony coming in there now, first thing I'm doing is one of the first things I'm doing is going over to Cristiano, because Antony's at that similar stage of his career where he's kind of been that young superstar. He's to be this young player who's going to come in and get your arse off seats at Old Trafford. Like you go over to Cristiano. Ask him about his diet plan. Ask him how he carries himself. Ask him how he trains. And if Cristiano wants to take on that role at this stage of his career, like Giggs and Keane and Scholes and Rio, that all them done that for him, then that can only benefit these players. And maybe that's something that maybe add to his legacy. Like he can be that mentor that Keane was, Neville was, all these players were. And this could be something different for him. I know, look, Ronaldo's won trophies everywhere he's gone, but if he can accept that we are in part of a process, that we are part of a rebuild. Look, this stage of my career now, I'm going to help Man United get back to our best, but also I'm going to help the future players try to be either the next Cristiano or the next big thing in football. Then look, I think that can only benefit us even more. And then again, that adds to another cap to Ronaldo's legacy that's already flawless, really.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with that. I think he's, that's the stage of his career he's at now. He's coming towards the end. He's still a fantastic player and he still has a lot to offer on the field. But as you say, for some of them young players now and sort of the players in and around it, there's nobody better really to sort of try and pick the brains of and, look at the way he sort of, composes himself on and off the field, the way he looks after himself. He's the perfect mentor really for some of these young lads. And if he's willing to sort of help them and pass on the, advice and experience that he's had, it's going to stand him in great stead for the future because, there's nobody better for me in world football to sort of learn from. Yeah,
definitely not. There's no better in world football. And again, the way he carries himself as a professional is second to none, really. I kind of want to touch on the opposition. Obviously going into tomorrow's game, obviously Arsenal are top of the league and they've won all their games this season, and I think a lot of the media are giving Arsenal weighing their colours this season. It looks like Arteta has them taken over really well. Obviously, look, it's a big game tomorrow, but what have you made of their start first and foremost?
They were good against Villa, and they've been good. They were good, really good at Bournemouth. There were some really good moments there. I don't think they were great against Fulham. I say that I haven't seen every single. Good morning, Jimmy. By the way, I haven't seen everything that they've done. I know that they played well against Leicester by all accounts. They're kind of like a Man City light now, aren't they? They play the same kind of football. It's like watching a City reserve team, basically. And I mean that complimentary. They're very sort of on the
Guardiola, in terms of the fullbacks being inverted, and
of course, yeah. I mean, and obviously Arteta's learned a lot from him. Jesus plays exactly the same way that he did. Odegaard's a little bit like a David Silva, Bernardo Silva kind of creator, and he's beautiful to watch on the ball. You've got all that kind of stuff going on. You've obviously got Martinelli in good form, but you still don't know because the teams that they've played are the teams who effectively struggled. At Fulham, a promoted side, but all the rest, they've got results against teams who have struggled this season so far. I mean, scoring a few past Bournemouth is no great shakes, considering, you know, Liverpool put 9 past them. Winning over Villa, you know, it's just a matter of, it seems like it's only a case of when and not if Gerrard's going to get the sack. So beating them, even though they played well against Villa, wasn't something that you think, oh, that's an indication of their progress. So they're coming to Old Trafford to prove that they are doing well. You know what I mean? And so it's going to be a really good test for Ten Hag, because we've had our own upturn in form. We want to see a little bit more in terms of these patches of good football that we've seen. We want to see a little bit more of that. We want to see control in a fairly big game. We're two clubs who, they're probably a little bit further ahead in terms of their development, but they're still in the same stage of redevelopment as what we are, in terms of they want to get back into the Champions League. They're not in that kind of position to do that. United, obviously, historical standard is they've got to win the league and they've got to be number one, and they're judged against that. Even if they don't get in the Champions League, they're judged against ultimate failure. Arsenal don't have that kind of spotlight, but they also have a more generous reflection on the progress that they are making. But make no mistake, it's going to be a big test for Ten Hag and the players, because this is going to be a team who are going to come and they're going to want the ball. Leicester and Southampton were quite happy for United to have it for long periods. So it's going to be a test to see how United's midfield in particular react to that, how the defence reacts to the good and clever movement. You know, they've obviously, Arsenal are quite strong on the right-hand side as well. So it's going to be a big test for Malacia and Martinez. Are they, you know, we still don't know if the Liverpool game was a fluke and the other 2 games afterwards were just a bounce from that. So I don't know, really. I mean, people want to see United win. I want to see United win. But if, let's say, for example, that we play positively and we get let's say, an entertaining draw out of it and it's a good game of football, I don't think that it'll be a sign that we have stalled or anything. I just think all of this season is going to be a kind of process of learning where this new United side are, with 5 new signings in there, and whether or not the goalkeeper is going to play. But there's 5 new first team signings. In terms of where we are, just to summarise, I think we're in the similar stages. They're a little bit advanced in terms of the time that they've had under Arteta, but there's no reason why United can't go toe to toe with it. You know, they shouldn't feel like they're apprehensive at home, at least. You know, because we still don't know if this Arsenal side's got a bit of a spine. They struggled towards the back end of last season. They don't have like a Petit and Vieira kind of midfield in there, so they can be got at, you would presume. Xhaka, I know he's done well against us in the past, but he's not going to be in an Arsenal team that, you know, like we can say McTominay is not going to be in a team that wins the league for United. Xhaka's not going to be in a team that wins the league for Arsenal for sure. So United can get at them, and it's going to be interesting for sure.
Phil, what are your thoughts just on their development? Because it seems like Arteta's come in, he's steadied ship, he's bringing in young players, and he's trying to play the right way. But in the last kind of 18 months, he's spent a lot of money. And I think many people are having the same expectation for Arteta that they did for Solskjaer, that he has to kind of make that extra step after spending his own money and getting significant backing. Would you kind of agree with that sentiment this season, that he needs to get back into the top 4 this season and maybe to a challenge for a trophy?
I think the signings he's made have definitely made a big impact. I think, you know, Zinchenko, Jesus, and the sort of the form of Odegaard this season have sort of transformed Arsenal into a sort of you know, top 4 challenging team, most definitely. I think as you say, we've not really seen him against one of the top sides of yet, but you know, they have looked comfortable and played some really good football so far. You know, Arteta's obviously learned from Pep Guardiola his time at Manchester City, and I think now that he's got the right players, I think he's starting to implement that style of football, and we're sort of steadily seeing them sort of you know, results and sort of, you know, outcomes come out in the team. I think this game that we've got now is going to be a sort of massive test for both teams, really. I think we've, you know, done really well against Liverpool and then had 2 okay results, but obviously confidence is high because we've won 3 on the spin. Arsenal haven't lost a game yet, but haven't really played anyone of real note yet. So I think it's going to be a really sort of interesting game to see how it pans out. But yeah, I think Arteta's done really well, and I think the pressure will be now that he has spent all this money and that he has brought these players into the club that they do get into that top four. They have started really well. They've got a lot of players in form, but again, I agree with Wayne. I think defensively, they can be got at, and there are sort of still some frailties in that sort of Arsenal spine for teams to sort of exploit. And it's one of them. I think going forward, they look a lot more assured and like they look like a team that could be in the top four with the way they sort of move forward now and score goals. But they have got sort of that sort of little bit of soft centre, and then maybe a little bit at the back what teams can sort of capitalise on, which they can still improve on for me.
Yeah, I think there's still a way to go for him, but I think that what they have done initially well. I think last season what he done with the young players like Saka and Smith Rowe, Martinelli, and Tommy Yasio as well coming in. I thought he's actually been a very underrated signing at right back as well. So he's a very good player. I think he's come across actually quite likeable in the All for Nothing series as well, Arteta as well as a manager. So look, he's doing well there. I think I agree with both of you. I think at the start of the season, he hasn't played the cream of the crop yet. Not to say that we are the cream of the crop, but he hasn't played any of the top teams yet. And I think, like I was talking to someone about this yesterday, I think this game Sunday is going to show where both teams really are. I think because I think Wayne, you mentioned it quite rightly. We beat Liverpool. That was a derby. That was the biggest. It's the biggest game in football. The players were always going to be up for it, and obviously, the last two wins, could they be a bounce off it? We don't know. I think in terms of the progress and both teams' recent form, I think this game will show where both teams really are, and we will see kind of a resemblance of that. And look, I just hope it's an entertaining game of football, because usually Man United versus Arsenal has a bit of bite, the two teams usually play good football against each other, except that time Jose went to Emirates and put 10 men behind the ball. But other than that, we've always seen a decent game between these two sides. So hopefully we can do the same. But what we're going to do now is we're going to give our start 11 and score predictions. Now, I have roped Wayne into giving his score predictions today. So Wayne is going to represent Lee here today on the score predictions today, and also start 11 as well. And so we're going to give our score predictions. So just to give you an update on the last score predictions we did. So me and Phil both went, me, Phil and Lee all went for Man United wins. Now, Lee was very optimistic and said he'd go for 9-0. As you can see there, Phil said 2-1, I said 2-0. So both me and Phil scored 3 points. That's 2 points on our scores. And Lee did score 2 points as well with the 9-0. None of us got the result right, so we all got 2. So what we're doing, Wayne, here, and just to explain, with our score predictions each week, we're actually keeping track for it each week, and we're doing it like Sky Sports Super 6. So if you get the result right, you get 5 points, and if you get if you get the score prediction right to a T, you get 5 points. You get the result right, and you get 2 points. Obviously, if you don't get anything right, it's obviously a 0. So it's going to be the same concept here today. So we are keeping track of our table this season.
Was Lee's prediction for the Southampton game or Leicester game?
This is for the Southampton game. This is the last time we were on the show.
So he predicted 9-0.
Lee Lawrence predicted 9-0.
All right, that aside. But Liverpool won 9-0.
Yeah, he got the 9-0 right someday.
So he's going to make a crazy prediction every week, and that prediction might just end up in a Premier League game somewhere. I mean, hopefully at United, but that is pretty mad to predict a 9-0 and then there's a 9-0 the next day. There was
a 9-0 the next day. That's actually I actually didn't think of that. That's actually crazy. He did predict a 9-0. Now, mind you, I think the cocktails over Mexico must have been lovely that night when he predicted 9-0. But I do agree. It's absolutely unreal. He predicted 9-0 on the game, 9-0 on the game week. That 9-0 did happen. But on that note, that's last week's score predictions. We will get score predictions just after our 11s, but that was just to give you guys an update on kind of where we are. Phil, give us your starting 11 from 1 to 11 and formation, please.
Okay, I'll make it pretty straightforward. I think it's going to be the starting 11 that started against Leicester, other than I think Casemiro's going to start for McTominay, and I think Antony's going to come in for Ilanga. So it'll be the same team other than McTominay and sort of Ilanga, and them two players to just step in for them.
So same 11, and Casemiro comes in for McTominay and Antony comes in for Ilanga.
Yeah.
Perfect. Wayne, do you have the same starting 11 to Phil?
I know. So I know that you've roped me into doing it, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a good sport, but I'm not going to do it the way that you think I should do it. I'm going to do it representing Lee. So I'm going to try and get in his mind. Doesn't mean I'm going to predict a 9-0. I think he would want Ronaldo to start. Knowing Lee, I think he'd be like, Ronaldo's got to start. But I think he would then settle down a little bit, and then he'd realise he's probably not going to, because Arsenal play it too faster pace for that. I am going to go and say that United are going to be unchanged. Even Antony on the bench, Casemiro on the bench, and Ronaldo on the bench as well. I think it's too soon for Antony. I think that follows the pattern of the way that Ten Hag's done things. I mean, may well spring a surprise, because obviously, he can make impulsive decisions as well. We've seen he can make those kind of decisions, but I don't think he'll make a change. That's my gut feeling.
So Wayne's gone unchanged. Phil's gone 2 changes. I think we make 2 changes. However, I think McTominay keeps his place in the midfield. I think it'll be McTominay and Casemiro, and I think Eriksen will drop to the bench. I think Eriksen playing 3 games in 1 week may be a bit of a stretch. So I'll go same 11. And I go, well, bar the exception of Eriksen, I put Casemiro in there with McTominay and Fernandes in front, because I think with Casemiro and McTominay in there, you'll have 2 players who can stick it to Arsenal's two 8s in there as well. And so I think one thing we will have to do is we will have to stick it on Arsenal early. We'll have to get the crowd up. We'll have to stick it on them early. And I think if you put McTominay and Casemiro in there, you disrupt the way Arsenal want to play in there. But also it gives Fernandes that kind of more impetus to go forward, get into the box, and create them chances. So I think that's what Ten Hag may do. And I go Antony starting as well over Antony Ilanga. I think Rashford and Sancho keep their place, but I'll go Antony. I think the difference with Antony is he's had a pre-season, he's played Eredivisie games, so it's not like he's no match fitness. He does have match fitness, bar the game he, I suppose, went on strike before he signed for us. He has had game time, so I think he could play, but I won't be surprised if Ilanga keeps his place, because look, he has played very well since he's been in the starting lineup, and he might actually feel a bit hard done by if he did get dropped, but he has played well. And for no people in my Twitter mentions, I'm not starting Donny van de Beek before you come at me. I'm just not going to start him, so please just don't kill me. I'm getting killed over it recently. I'm not putting him in my 11. It's not that I don't like him or anything like that. It's just he hasn't done it for me, and I think Bruno and Eriksen have been that bit better at the moment. But we will go with our score predictions for tomorrow's game. And so, because I've roped Wayne into doing this, I'm going to Wayne first. Wayne. And because I wrote Wayne into, I'm going to get Wayne to go first here, and because actually I have Lee's down there, so I'm going to get this on the banner here now. I'm going to do Lee/Wayne. So Wayne, give us yourself and Lee's score prediction for tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's a very Wayne's score prediction would. I'm not being pessimistic, but I'm expecting a score draw. But I'm going to channel Lee. I think Lee would be more optimistic, and I think Lee would reckon we'll score 3 goals. And I was going to say 4-1 actually, but I'm going to go 3-1 because I think he would be too optimistic. I think it depends how much tequila he's had, but I'm going to presume not a lot, and he's going with a 3-1. I'm going to ask him after, but I'm going 3-1 on behalf of Lee. I'm channeling Lee right now, and I think he's telling me 3-1 to United.
So Wayne and Lee have gone 3-1 United. Phil, what's your score prediction? You went 2-1 on the last show. Are you sticking to that score prediction, or you think is there going to be more goals or less even?
Yeah, I think my head is saying a score draw. Like when I initially just think of how the game might pan out, it's like a 1-1 or a 2-2. But my heart is saying that we're gonna just have enough to win the game, like a 2-1. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win. I want to be positive. I think we've got the sort of positive vibes at the moment with the way we've been playing. We've been playing not so great and still winning. But yeah, I think we're going to win 2-1. I'm going to go for, and can I give you my scorers as well?
Indeed, yeah.
I'm going to go for a Bruno penalty first, and then an Antony winner.
Oh, stop. Lads, you do know I'm probably getting banned off Twitter if both of them things happen. Oh, stop. That would be absolutely lovely. Do you know what, Phil? If that happens, I'll give you a point.
Yeah, this is flowing nicely if that happens.
If that happens, Phil, do you know what? I'll make a new rule. If that happens, just because the two things said in the scenario, you're not getting 10 points. It's not Gryffindor here. You're getting the one extra point. You get that one extra point if you do get the scoreline, and that's that particular scenario, because that would be absolutely unreal. Usually, I'm the one who kind of errs on the side of caution with my score predictions, but I'm getting carried away this week. I'm going to go 3-2 United. I think it's going to be an entertaining game. I'm going to go same as last season. I'm going to go Ronaldo winner off the bench. I know he started last season, but I'm going to go for Ronaldo winner. And the other two goal scorers, I'll go Jadon Sancho again. And just for the buzz, I'm going to go Lisandro Martinez to score off a set piece, just for the absolute buzz, and really ruin this narrative that Jamie Carragher and co are setting. I think I will go 3-2, and I'll go Martinez off a set piece, Sancho and Cristiano Ronaldo to get the winner. I swear to God, if Lisandro Martinez scores from a set piece, I'm going to be the most unbearable human being on this planet Earth. Not just Ireland, not just the UK, the world. I'll absolutely be so unbearable if that happens. But that's our score predictions for this week, and just to confirm that on screen. And so Lee and Wayne have gone for 3-1, Phil's gone 2-1, and I've gone 3-2. So do let us know in the comments, guys, what your score predictions is. And do you agree with any of our start 11s, or would you do anything different to what we've done? Richard said last night 2-1. We usually deal Arsenal at home without much fuss. Hopefully that's still the case on Sunday. And just to point out on the 9-0 as well, only United have done the 9-0 twice. So yeah, one team done it once, but the first time was so nice we had to do it twice. So that's absolutely. We may see another 9-0, maybe not this weekend, but hopefully this season we get another 9-0 in there. But we're gonna wrap it up there, guys. Thanks very much for listening in this morning. You all have a good weekend. Obviously, there's good football. There's not just United against Arsenal. You have the Merseyside derby and the Old Firm as well. So if you're a football fan in general, it's a very good weekend. And also Clash of the Castle is on. The wrestling's on in Wales tonight. So if you're a wrestling fan, if you're a fan of sport, you literally have everything this weekend. So, if you are, I hope you to chill out, have a good weekend, and not let Man United worry you too much. But on that note, guys, thanks very much for watching. Make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe as always. We'll have the match reaction tomorrow with Mark as well. And also do subscribe to us on our audio platforms as well, whether it's Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, whichever podcast platform you prefer, and continue to support the channel. But thanks very much for watching. I hope you all have a good weekend.